Today, we are bringing in the section chiefs and senior analysts from our Special Access Need-to-Know division into the McKee Roundtable. This is the $15 and $20 level, respectively, at the Florida Maquis Patreon. We are going to assign our first PsyOp today. We have spent the last month doing basic psychological operations training and showing examples. Now, we are going to take that information, what we've learned, and apply it into our own specific battle spaces. Each individual has their own individual information battle space. When you put this type of a psychological operation into play, you're going to get feedback. You're going to get information about those around you. And that is an incredibly valuable tactical asset. So what we're going to do is this. The man on the left is a guy named Simon Bolivar. The man on the right, of course, is George Washington. What I would like the members of this group to do is take this picture and assign it somewhere in your social media, whether it's your Facebook page or profile picture or YouTube channel, whatever. Just this picture with nothing else. Then, in your engagement platform, whatever it be, whether it be status update or whatever kind of verbal post, any way that you engage with your social media circle, what I would like you to do is start putting just quotes, not ascribing who they're from, either Simon Bolivar or George Washington. Just put the quote out and see if anyone can discern the difference between the quotes made by Simon Bolivar and the quotes made by George Washington. I'll give you an example. George Washington said, "Happiness and moral duty are inseparably connected." But when we look at Simon Bolivar, he said something very close to that. Let me see if I can find it here. A people that loves freedom will in the end be free. The ignorance people live in leads them to commit mistakes against their own happiness. That's the one I was going for. So there are a bunch of wonderful quotes you can find, and this is easy for you to do. AZ quotes for Simon Bolivar. You can do the same thing for George Washington. Now, don't talk about the Bolivarian Revolution. Don't talk about Venezuela. Don't talk about Bolivia. Don't talk about anything in modern politics. Simply the picture of the two guys, side by side, like that. Then see if your audience, your battle space audience, can discern the difference between the quotes, between George Washington and Simon Bolivar. Now, it might help to do a little bit of reading if you don't know much about Simon Bolivar, just to get his basic wiki. He is basically the South American George Washington. His belief system and Washington's belief system were very, very close. They lived during very different times. George Washington, of course, being much, much older, from a time only about 100 years or so prior to Simon Bolivar. But this is the psychological operation, because what will happen, the net effect is this. There will, of course, be people in your audiences, respectively, that will be able to use the internet to figure out who did what. But in the process of doing so, they will understand and begin to understand how closely aligned these two people are in thought process. Then they will be able to make the jump themselves without any help from us between Simon Bolivar and the Bolivarian Revolution. So when they hear anyone in the future talk negatively about the Bolivarian Revolution, they will automatically assign it a negative connotation because in their own research, they've seen the Bolivarian model mimic George Washington. And we don't even have to tell them to do that. All we have to do is put up this picture, put up the quotes, and like I said, don't assign the quotes. Don't say George Washington said this or Bolivar said that. Let them figure it out on their own. When they figure those two things out, who said what, they'll start to just subconsciously understand how closely these two were aligned, and then that will already have taken seed and root in their mind. Once that is done, then everything else will grow on its own. But the input that you will get back will be invaluable about the mindset of those around you. You might even see some cognitive dissonance. You might even see some normality bias. You might see these things that we've been talking about manifest themselves in anger because someone might actually figure out that the mainstream media story about the Bolivarian Revolution and who Simon Bolivar is mimics our own revolution, mimics the things that our founding fathers believed, and it'll give them a great sense of anger and internal, not necessarily shame, but angst and frustration of having been so deceived. And that's what you'll want to look for. That all caps response, that 3 or 4 or 5 paragraphs response, trying to explain basically to themselves that their position is right, that one guy is wrong and one guy is right. So that's the assignment. This picture and the quotes of Bolivar and the quotes of Washington. I'm going to do it myself. I'm going to put it into the communities tab on my YouTube page where you can do polls. And I'm going to use these polls to do research as to who knows what and why they believe what. And next week, we are going to do the same thing. We are going to have a joint meeting between the Special Access Need to Know Division and the Roundtable, and we are going to put together what happened. And I'm expecting, of course, input. You can do it on Patreon underneath the post. You can do it through YouTube. And I'm pretty sure most of you probably know where I am on Facebook. You can also put your results there. I keep my Facebook page pretty much empty, other than the Florida Maquis, and you will understand who I am and why. And you can put all of your results there as well. So that's the assignment. Thank you, everyone, for taking the time to attend the briefing. We will be expecting some very interesting results, and I think this first attempt at a psychological operation will bear great fruit. So thank you so much, and we will see you next week.